Welcome back, friends, to the Dr. Pontificus podcast. I am your humble host, the eponymous Pontificus himself, overly emphatic voice of reason and compassion in this circus of chaos we affectionately call the American culture. In today's episode, we continue our journey on how to fight the good fight, but don't be a hater, and we look at what makes the progressive world better and how we can get there. Enjoy. So, in our last episode, we described what the left really believes in, and then we went down the deep, dark rabbit hole of how the rabid right took over America, and how we progressives, in many ways, let that happen. But now, we'll turn the corner from catastrophizing to what we can do about it, getting America out of this tar pit and back into the light. So, somehow, the left has not been able to make its case in a way that breaks through the barbed wire barricades of the rabid right to reach ordinary, everyday Americans. And when they call us progressives anti-American and say we're out of touch, that we're elite intellectuals that don't understand the quotidian, and the fact that I'm even using a word like quotidian kind of makes their point, doesn't it? So that they'd rather trust a billionaire real estate mogul than experts, teachers, professors, therapists. I can't keep track of who they're demonizing this week. So let's just talk through the progressive agenda then, shall we? And how it's going to lead to a better world, even for conservatives. Really, it's okay. It's going to be okay. Because again, you see, the great progressive agenda is all about justice. Yes, that's all it is. But the progressive view of justice goes beyond enforcing contracts and punishing criminals. It is based on a deep understanding of what the concept of human rights really means. Having inalienable human rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness establishes that everyone, just by being born, is valuable, sacred, worthy of dignity and respect. Human rights for progressives is not just the freedom of choice and expression, not just the freedom to vote, but also freedom from being victimized by forces beyond our control. That's why we call it social justice, because the point is bringing about a more just society. And that explicitly includes the economic conditions, not just the political system. And how do we do that? Through strong social institutions. You know, the things that hold society together, like government, education, the family, the media, science, and religion, etc., etc. That's where justice begins, and that's how it's sustained. So let's talk about diversity. Again, it's one of those things that you'd think no one would have a problem with, but wow, the rabid right sure has their scope set on affirmative action and diversity programs and such. So please let I, Dr. Pontificus, explain. Of course, diversity is a direct consequence of liberty. Diversity is the very expression of freedom. And we know what diversity does for the people who receive it. It allows them to be themselves, to choose their own beliefs, express their culture, their customs, lifestyle choices. And that is especially important for people routinely oppressed because of their ethnic identity or their religious beliefs or lack thereof, their non-traditional lifestyles, whatever makes the majority uncomfortable. But I don't think we talk enough about how diversity helps the majority who don't have to worry about oppression and how it helps the society in general. So I had a student in, of course, a critical thinking course who literally and defiantly asked, why should we be around people who are different from us? And so, of course, he was a baseball player and from the countryside, wouldn't you know? And I'm thinking, how could he not know the answer to that? Isn't it common sense? So it occurred to me, censorship is not often deliberate and direct in this conscious silencing of the opposition. Often it's just kind of a passive censorship of neglect, of minds that are sheltered and barricaded from differences. Simple human differences. Minds that just avoid exposure to all of the wide and wonderful ways to be human in this world. And that sheltered life, it takes its toll. Whether you're aware of it or not, it leads to stagnation, ideas bogging down, going backwards. Conservatives say that their beliefs are time tested, that their ideas last because they've worked for so long. But in reality, many of those ideas have only lasted because they refuse to test them. They allow nothing to challenge them so that they can go on in blissful ignorance. And I'm sorry, when you actually test conservative beliefs with logic, reason, real evidence, and a functional moral compass, frankly, they are a house of cards that collapse under scrutiny. Which is one of the reasons conservatives insist upon monopolizing the belief systems of whatever culture they're in. Diversity stimulates ideas. It opens your mind, enables you to embrace a rich, fertile, complex world. It's great. So let me be really, really clear here. Diversity helps white people, including, of course, straight white men like me, Dr. Pontificus. It's not a threat to you or your way of life or your pride. It's good for you. Being isolated, only being around people that agree with you, believe the same thing you do, look like you, talk like you, now that is very, very bad for you. It's bad for you socially, economically, emotionally. Hell, it's bad for your health, but especially it is bad for you morally. Because without appreciation for diversity, the temptation to abuse power becomes irresistible. It turns ordinary people into sadistic tyrants. We see this over and over throughout history. Nazi abuses of the Jews, white slaveholders, hell, the little children of white slaveholders, inflicting unspeakable pain and humiliation on people that they have power over. So W.E.B. Du Bois, the great American sociologist, tells a story of seeing the fingers of a lynched African American strung out on a butcher shop window as a message to uppity blacks. So somehow this guy, an ordinary worker, probably even thinks of himself as a Christian, somehow he came to embrace the kind of gruesome cruelty we've come to associate with serial killers, sadists, and psychopaths because his cultural environment made it seem normal. And the list goes on and on. Hate crimes of every shape and size committed when one group thinks they are more evolved or blessed or even more human than another, when really it's the opposite because being an oppressor makes you less human. Folks, the appreciation of diversity is just an expression of basic human conscience. And so when the rabid right attacks diversity curriculum, shuts down diversity offices in schools and universities, they are saying, you can't make us care about our fellow humans. You can't stop us from abusing whoever we want, whenever we want. They are saying, we don't want to have a heart. What we want is the liberty to hate. And that is pretty much the definition of evil. So, diversity doesn't just protect your potential victims, conservatives. Diversity saves your soul. Our world, the progressive world, is better than this. We don't need to scapegoat minorities to blame for our problems anymore. We don't need to even blame you, conservatives, although you've done some damage. We progressives don't want to game the system, we want to change the system. And you conservatives, you need to ask yourself, do you really, really want to be in a democracy? Because if you do, you have to embrace and protect diversity. If you don't, then stop pretending to defend our Constitution because at heart, you don't really believe in it. Now, contrary to the distorted worldview of the rapid right, diversity is the natural state of all life on Earth. So let I, Dr. Pontificus, explain by telling you a story about the bees and the flowers. So, bees and flowers have a symbiotic relationship. They provide for each other something that the other lacks, right? So we know what bees get out of flowers and yummy nectar so that they can go and make honey for all the Pooh Bears, right? But what exactly do flowers get from bees? So they have evolved very good ways of attracting them because they need bees in order to actually reproduce. See, the little male and female parts of the flowers are separated in order to prevent flowers from just pollinating themselves. And why is that a bad thing? Biodiversity. You don't want a species of clones, right? Because if every individual in a species is alike, then if something comes along that can kill one, it kills them all. It could be a disease, it could be an invasive species, whatever. Plus, a small gene pool leads to genetic diseases. Just ask the Habsburgs. Now, a nice, wide, diverse gene pool makes the species more resilient, able to deal with changes in the environment. So, the flowers, they need to be pollinated by flowers that are far away to keep their genetic material all mixed up, because that's a good thing, but the problem is flowers can't really move. But bees get around, right? So they are literally using the nectar to bribe the bees to bring them pollen from all over the place. Get it? But it's more than just a mutually beneficial relationship. They need each other in order to survive because they are actually part of a bigger whole. And if we zoom out a little bit to look at a whole, say, bioregion, we see these symbiotic relationships everywhere at all levels of life. We see all these different plant and animal species interacting with each other, with the soil, the weather, the climate, in this great complex web of interdependence. And the more species you have, the more interactions you have, the stronger and more resilient the whole thing becomes. It's like an analogy for human society, right? So sorry, white supremacists. Diversity is built into the very fabric of nature. Diversity is what makes us all thrive, you racist idiots. Now, for me, diversity is the realization that I, Dr. Pontificus, as a white, straight, middle-class male, have power and privilege in this society just because I was born that way. That I benefit from an economic and political system that favors people with my heritage and skin color, and that is not okay. My experiences and values are a product of my personal upbringing, which is not the norm for everyone, not a standard I can impose on others. And the system, by benefiting me, consequently harms people that aren't like me just because of the way they were born, and that is not okay. Power and privilege are often invisible to the people that have it, as are patterns of prejudice and discrimination. So being woke literally means becoming conscious of how the system we live in helps me and hurts others, and makes me conscious of things that I do to perpetuate this unfair advantage and the injustices caused by this situation. Abuse of power is wrong, even if I benefit from it. That's what it means to be woke. Out of this great realization comes the whole idea of human rights and the protection of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that is core to American culture. And from that arises a vision of the ideal world us progressives can see yonder on the horizon, the world of multiculturalism. In this beautiful, beautiful world, people can be equal and different at the same time. That I don't need you to be like me, to think like me, and believe all the same things I do. That in fact, I benefit from you being different. It opens my mind to all the possible ways to be human, stimulating ideas, enriching my outlook, and deeper than that, feeling your humanity within your differences enriches my heart, helps me to care more about more people. That helps me be a better human and inspires me to create a more humane world. And that is the great progressive utopia. Our way, our world is better. So, speaking of utopia, let's look at all the marvelous facets of the great progressive agenda. It's really quite sensible, folks. Let's start with economic regulation. Now, this is one of those words that the rich have convinced ordinary folks like you and me to despise, even though it only hurts the rich and is really good for the rest of us. Now, listen, capitalism cannot be trusted to do the right thing because the profit motive completely short circuits everyone's moral compass. Once money gets involved, people will sacrifice the health and safety of their workers, their customers. They will destroy the earth to get at resources, leaving nothing but toxic wastelands and enslaved populations in their wake. So, someone has to protect the people and the environment from mind-blowing greed and bottomless gluttony. Those are deadly sins, right? And that's what regulation does. It protects the capitalists from themselves and keeps them from destroying the rest of us. Without it, the whole system would have collapsed long, long ago because capitalism, left to its own devices, inevitably gets carried away with itself in waves of exuberant speculation, driving the entire economy into a roller coaster of boom and bust because they just don't know when to quit. They need more and more and more. And when it all falls apart, government steps in and bails them out, and they can't even admit their own mistakes, and they can never be grateful. So they'll just do it all over again because their lust for money is so addictive that they just can't help themselves. So regulation is good for them. It's good for us. It's good for the whole freaking planet. Regulation is just balance. That's what the word means, making things regular, not too hot, not too cold, and keeps people from becoming, evil, selfish bastards. Our way, the progressive way, is better than this mess. Which brings me to a fair income distribution. Now, capitalism is built to concentrate wealth into smaller and smaller portions of the population. That's not an unintended consequence of the system. That is the system. It's always been a pyramid scheme. And the taller the pyramid is, the more at the bottom and the fewer at the top, the more it strains the whole society, creates unnecessary conflict, crime, mutual distrust. Now, let I, Dr. Pontificus, put it in a way the capitalist can understand. Wealth concentration is unproductive, inefficient, and wasteful. There, I took human feelings out of it, just like you like. And furthermore, Bringing human feelings back in, poverty literally destroys human beings. It deprives them of dignity. It deteriorates their mental and physical health. It shortens their lives. Poverty is immoral and inhuman. We can do better. We can fix this by making our social institutions more humane. And how do we do that? By restoring and reinforcing a sense of public service. How sick is it that the whole notion of service, of caring about other people, about wanting to improve your community has somehow become un-American? You know who believed in public service? The founding fathers of America. That's who. No wonder the rabid right wants to rewrite the history books again. Listen, working toward the good of society helps all the individuals within society, including those doing the helping. Not only does service make you a happier, healthier person, it creates an environment that promotes goodwill and well-being. It reduces conflict and chaos overall. So, until we can eliminate the culture of cruelty inherent in capitalism, we can at least repair the damage through dedication to service, to making things better. And at the foundation of this service is a commitment to public education, to children. Folks, you can't have a functional democracy without educated citizens, unless, of course, you're trying to manipulate or dominate them. Maybe you're not trying to do that, are you? No. No? Listen, uneducated people make uninformed decisions. They elect incompetent people to office. They support disastrous policies and don't even realize they're doing it because they are constantly carried away emotionally, often on purpose. What cures this? Critical thinking skills, which, among other things, train you to test your own beliefs to see if they are based on reality and produce beneficial results. Critical thinking empowers you to detect bullshit, which is often the opposite of what people are telling you it is. It gives you the chance to pause, calm down, assess the situation, and not make stupid knee-jerk decisions while denying the consequences of them. Because one of the most fundamental functions of critical thinking and science in general is to give us a common reality by establishing testable facts about how the world is and how it works. Now, I, Dr. Pontificus, am not a scientist, but I sure as hell understand that we can't just make up shit about whether or not vaccinations work or climate change is real. If you want a society to function and everyone has a vote and a voice in that society, then everyone needs a good, solid, well-funded education that does not have anything to do with who they are, where they are, or how much money they have. That's what a democracy means. Educated people make better decisions. They have better options for growth and life goals. And it's not just about creating a more skilled workforce. It's not just about money, for God's sake. Education promotes cultural innovation in the arts and architecture and infrastructure, spiritual meaning and purpose, and yes, folks, even happiness. Listen, happiness is not a dirty word. It's not an impossibility. It's the way we were meant to be. This is the way. This is the way forward. And speaking of moving forward, let's talk healthcare. Now, why are we the only country in the free world who doesn't have a universal healthcare system? Because we have a bunch of rich people convincing a bunch of poor people that they really don't need or want it, that somehow they are better off without it. Can there be a bigger con than getting people to promote their own suffering? Have we gone mad? Well, yes, we have. But I, Dr. Pontificus, Remain sane in an insane world. And I tell you, without a doubt, no one should go bankrupt because they get sick. And as someone who personally has not gone to the doctor when I was sick because I couldn't afford it, it is cruel and absurd to have to choose between your health and your rent. Again, just like education, a healthier society serves us all. So, if it's not good enough for you to help the sick just because it's the right thing to do, if giving out of the goodness of your heart makes you feel scared and protective, then do it for yourself. A functional healthcare system creates less stress, less crime, more productivity, and on and on and on. I know it's hard to give up on the sadomasochism of American capitalism, but our way is better. The progressive way is a better, healthier life. Progressives are healthier, we eat better, we live longer, we're less stressed out, and we are happier because we reject the soul-crushing culture of cruelty. Now, I, Dr. Pontificus, would be remiss without mentioning some of the social institutions that have become just a wee bit dysfunctional and out of balance. And that would be law enforcement and the military. Yes, I know that criticizing these sacred institutions is taboo in the rabid right-wing world, but I, Dr. Pontificus, simply don't care. Yes, you all have guns. You're very, very scary. I get it. But that doesn't give you the right to screw up our society. So, one of the fundamental principles of the progressive movement is making sure that too much power isn't concentrated in too few hands. And the abuse of power is especially tempting when it comes to these two institutions because those are the people that have the legal permission to hurt, kill, and imprison us. Which is why they need lots and lots and lots of checks and balances, which is all perfectly reasonable in a functioning democracy. Now, of course, we wouldn't need all this if we would just cultivate a culture committed to taking care of each other. We wouldn't need to resort to war or foster an insanely bloated prison system. So, until we can figure that really obvious thing out, we should have a reasonably sized military and, I don't know, not the largest incarcerated population in the free world. We should actively be working toward de-escalation of all conflict everywhere, foreign and domestic. In the meantime, these institutions are a devastating drain on our national resources that could be used to help people, and reducing the effects of our host of social and environmental problems. Instead, both law enforcement and the military are preying actively upon the poor in a pervasive, systematic way. The progressive movement is the way out of this mess. It is a way to restore checks and balances, a way to reduce conflict, and achieve peace on earth, goodwill to everyone. Again, our way is better than yours. And lastly, let's talk about environmental protection. So, can you think of anything more important than maintaining a habitable planet? Of course you can, or we would have done something about it by now. So listen, dealing with long-term incremental problems, making sacrifices now for a future that you won't directly benefit from, that's very difficult for us human beings. But guess what? That's how we progressives roll. It's all about the long haul, getting to a better future one step at a time, because what we progressives do in all of these problems, from social justice to environmental justice, is look for the root causes instead of just slapping Band-Aids on surface symptoms. Climate change is real and is caused by our runaway, industrialized, wasteful, rampant consumerism, period. It doesn't matter whether you're in denial of that. Our economic system makes us into toxic, gluttonous, wasteland creators. But we don't have to be that way. We can learn to care again, to pay attention to others and to our world. We can repair the damage, make amends, and plan for a future with breathable air and drinkable water. Because sustainability is not just about the environment, it's a basic way to live life, a model for how to run a society. There's nothing radical about that. Now, slow mass suicide, that's crazy. And that's where the rabid right is driving us. Yes, it will require lifestyle changes, major changes to the present system, but our present lifestyle is already toxic, and so is the system it's based upon. Our way is better than this. Progressives offer long-term solutions to wicked systemic problems. I'm sorry you don't have the patience for it. The rest of us do. So that's it, folks. The main planks of the great progressive agenda. It's not that scary. It's good for you. It's good for the planet. It fosters security and safety, a sense of belonging and acceptance, promotes compassion for all life into the future. It empowers creativity, expression, and human flourishing. We progressives have heart, and so can you. So, how do we make this dream come true? Well, that's where Dr. Pontificus's clever catchphrase comes in. Fight the good fight, but don't be a hater. This is how we live up to our principles while standing up for them. Listen, anyone can be a hater. But for the record, progressive outrage doesn't end up with people being shot, imprisoned, homeless, raped, disenfranchised, or assaulted, and we don't start insurrections just because our candidate loses an election, you crybabies. Yeah, there are liberals who abuse power and violate our principles, just like Christians violate the teachings of Jesus all the time. That's all beside the point. We fundamentally believe that the culture of cruelty is bad for you, bad for everyone, including the way it plays out in our present political climate. Progressives want to promote health and well-being, to dismantle toxic tribalism, the whole adversarial apparatus. You don't have to believe in Jesus to see the sense in loving your enemies. Screw some bloody revolution. We want steady progress towards sustainability through reform of social institutions, the unwavering application of justice to every facet and every level of society, all the time, every time, forever. And we do it through education, speaking truth to power, to the powerless, even to those who don't want to hear it, because helping everyone find their long-lost hearts is the only victory that makes sense. Therefore, I, Dr. Pontificus, now declare, as so many others have, compassion is inevitable. What we progressives are essentially doing is removing the obstacles to empathy. We need to finally, fully admit to ourselves the meaningless existence of everyone living solely for their self-interest, that narcissism leads to nihilism. And again, that helping others helps you mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, economically, and spiritually. Compassion is power, the power to move hearts and minds to change the world. At our core, we progressives are modeling a civil society. The ability to deliberate, negotiate, find common ground, even compromise. This is what it means to live in a democracy. Hell, this is what it means to live with other people. We progressives acknowledge that everyone has human rights too, even the ones that don't agree with us. This makes us stronger. It makes us sustainable. It makes our world better. We don't want a world full of fear and hatred. We want inspiration and motivation. We want to build a world where everyone has a voice and everyone feels like they belong. We've been doing this all along. It's called the theory of the expanding circle, and it goes like this. Human beings are built to care about one another. Without this instinct, we would have killed each other off long, long ago. Our true strength is our ability to cooperate, and this is based on our God-given ability to love. It starts with the strong bond between mother and child, the key to our species' survival. Without this ability to protect and sacrifice for our children, we would not have been able to raise them for 15 odd years and wouldn't be able to develop these big bad brains to have a culture or a civilization or anything we call human. And the way we create this civilization is by expanding that love to bigger and bigger circles. Our kin, our clan, our city, our country. And now, folks, it is time for the next step. To extend the same esteem we have for our family, our country, to everyone, to the whole wide world. This is the way. This is the way forward. The conservative future is a dark, lonely, dangerous, Hobbesian wasteland. Our world, the progressive world, is better. Naive? Idealistic? No. Aspirational. Humans are capable of such brilliance and kindness. Let's build a culture that helps bring those things out in people. Set the intention first, and everything else flows from that. Happiness and health. That's the goal, and we just keep trying things out bit by bit, over and over, getting closer and closer, instead of deluding ourselves that humans deserve this degenerate dystopia we've designed for ourselves. Our world is better than yours. I'm sorry, conservatives, but it's true. You've had your way for forever, and it's just not working out. And the fact that I, Dr. Pontificus, am even apologizing to you that I feel the pain of disrupting your worldview, that in itself shows how much better the progressive world could be. This is the way. This is the way forward.
Take me to the fair. Hit me, Audie.
And that's it for now, folks. I, the eponymous Pontificus, thank you for your kind attention. The Dr. Pontificus podcast comes to you from the deep, dark heart of the American Midwest. Our theme music is by the Great Orange Mothers, awesome Austin band from ages of yore. Until next time, fight the good fight, but don't be a hater. And remember, friends, please don't feed the alphas. Dr. Pontificus bids you good day.